Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 3-0 Take, where we talk all things Major League Baseball. Here's Kyle Corwin and Nate Reyes. It all starts right now.
Ooh, welcome back to the 3-0 Take, presented by SeatGeek. This is episode 433. I'll be your host, Kyle Corwin, and I'm here with my co-host, Nate Reyes. Nate.
Howdy, let's get rowdy.
All right, so was it last episode? Was it the episode before? We were referencing an old episode, like one of the OG episodes, or like one of the first 5.
Yeah.
Do you remember what we were talking about?
Me singing Sinatra.
That's what it was.
Neil Diamond.
Yep. Episode 3, I believe it was. So you gave me a little inspiration, and I went back and listened to a couple of the old episodes because recently I'd been thinking with these intros, I'm like, are we bringing the same kind of juice? Are we bringing the same kind of energy we did back when we were, fast and loose with the pod? We weren't as polished, like what was that like? Embarrassing, dude. I went back and tough. it was like, so tell me if you remember this. It would be like, for me, it'd be like, what up? Welcome back to the 3-0 Take. My name is Kyle Corwin. And then I'd flip to you and I'd be like, Nate, say hello to the people. And you'd be like, what up, people? So rest assured, we have since we've got it straight. I mean,
I'd like to think so.
I think we bring a little bit more to the table with these intros and just episodes in general. So we're growing. Growth.
Nothing was worse as when I first came on, that first episode when I was shaky. Oh, hi. Ugh, gross. What happened to me?
Glad to be on the podcast.
What was that?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think I got lost in the followers. You were like telling me all this stuff, and I was looking at Facebook. You're like, I think I want to do a podcast.
And then you're going, this guy's probably got like 1 million listeners on his podcast.
We've got a lot of people listening. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Now I don't even remember what I say. Now it all just flows out of me, and I have no idea if I'm even correct or not.
He just blacks out for an hour. Yeah. Let's talk some baseball.
Sure.
Ronel Blanco. Actually, pause. You know what? I don't want to talk about Ronel Blanco just yet.
Teaser.
There's something a little more pressing that we have to address.
Yeah.
Look, the Oakland A's. I mean, the biggest letdown in the history of letdowns. I mean, what was that? Hold on. I need to pull up that tweet I sent you. All right, so this Oakland A's bet, as a reminder, like a week or so ago, Nate said over the next 14 games, the Oakland A's will not play 500 or better baseball. And I said they absolutely will. Let's bet on it. So we determined that the loser of the bet, for like, once the bet is completed, we'll have to wear a Oakland A's gold polo and an Oakland A's green visor for every episode until the All-Star break, which I think amounts to like a dozen episodes.
Delightful.
I felt so confident with the way that the A's had been playing.
A weird amount of confidence.
Certain guys. Okay, so according to Underdog Fantasy, this was the tweet I sent you. The Oakland A's since April 28th, and this was as of May 14th, led baseball in homers, led baseball in runs scored, led baseball in RBIs, led baseball in OPS. Brent Rooker, JJ Bleday, Abraham Toro, and Shea Langoliers, a.k.a. Shea Bangoliers, all have an OPS over 1,000 during this time. And again, that was as of May 14th. So I'm going, I was onto something there. Like, I was feeling good for the right reasons, but just weren't getting dubs. So as it stands right now, and it's very possible by the time you're hearing this, the A's will have lost their game tonight, Wednesday night, bringing the bet to a close, because as it stands right now, they need to win out for the next 5 games for me to finish at 500. So that's where we're at with that bet. So by next episode, we will more than likely know the result of this wager. But just wanted to provide that update.
Get a good look at Casey now, because this will be the last time you see him in streets. Just gonna be in the Billy Bean uniform.
I thought about showing up in like a collared shirt just to,
ease in a little bit.
Maybe feel a little bit professional before I just turn this into a clown show with the Billy Bean look. But
yeah,
alas, here we are. All right.
Are you first off, are you a little nervous about the hairline? Has that crept into the thought process?
No, I think the visor will be good. I think we'll be all right there. I think
it's disappointing because that's what I'm looking forward to most.
Well, I'm gonna manipulate the visor whatever way I need to make sure that that's not an issue. So, and I was thinking about it. I don't know if I've ever not worn a hat on this podcast. I think of the 433 episodes, I don't know if I've ever not worn a hat.
I think there was one. I remember it. I was pretty surprised by it.
I don't know if that ever happened.
I don't know why. It seemed like a random thing. I don't know. Who does the laundry more, you or Meredith?
It's a healthy split.
Seeing that gold polo in there.
Yep.
For the next few
that'll
months.
be fun. That'll be fun. That'll be a lot of gold. Oakland A's green and gold for the next couple months. But enough of that. Let's talk Ronel Blanco. So, in the 4th inning of last night being Tuesday night's game against the aforementioned Oakland Athletics, a game in which the Astros only won 2-1, by the way. I don't care how poorly the Houston Astros are doing or how good I think the Oakland A's are. That should not be a score coming out of that matchup. But 4th inning, the umpires come out. They go into full-on inspection mode. After a handful of minutes, Joe Espada's out there, Blanco's out there. The infielders have corralled around the mound. The verdict was that Ronel Blanco could not continue his outing, that he would be ejected, and the news broke today, actually, that he was dealt a 10-game suspension and a fine. So, where do we go? Where do we go with this? Where do we start? Because there's so many angles we could take. We could talk about the hypocrisy of umpiring crews when it comes to this issue. We could talk about how stupid you'd have to be as a pitcher to intentionally use some sort of substance, especially on the inner palm of your glove.
Yeah.
Where do we want to start here? We could start with the quote from the umpire that said he said it was the stickiest stuff I've felt on a glove since we've been doing this for a few years now, which I thought I mean, if you're, I just don't know. If you're stupid enough to use a substance intentionally, why? And it was that sticky. Why are you putting it in that location? I don't know. Where do we go?
Who was the umpire? I saw the video. Was it Laz Diaz?
Yeah. He was a third Tuesday night.
Okay, so let's take that a little bit. Obviously, the crew chief, right? So we got to take that into account. I believe so. I think he's a crew chief.
Yeah. Eric Bacchus was the guy that was handling the glove, it seems. I mean, I think they all passed it around, but I think Eric, I saw that he was the guy that was confiscating the glove, as it were. But yeah, I think Laz Diaz was right there in the mix.
Yeah, let's take that into account. I don't know. It's so hard. I'm not gonna do the easy, Astros cheating. I think you and I are kind of both over that.
Stop.
At this point.
Be done, baseball fans. What are we? Come on.
Yeah, this guy. I mean, 95% of the roster wasn't involved with that. So, Kind of over it. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I got to imagine that no one's intentionally doing this right now. Whether you're testing the envelope a little bit, like pushing the envelope and like testing the borders of how much sunscreen you're putting on, or what or are you just using the rosin on the back of the mound? That's what he claimed it was. It was just rosin. We've seen the videos, you know, the famous videos of Bauer doing the rosin and sunscreen and a ball just sticking to his palm with no fingers on it. It's so subjective. It's so subjective. Like, how many umpires are cracking down? How many umpires are really like sticking their hand inside of the glove as much as what we saw? How many guys are, you know, it comes to that like clip of the old guy doing the security check at the, you know, not touching anybody. Like, how many umpires are doing that? How many umpires aren't? How many? It's hard for me to imagine a pitcher today doing this when there's so many checks. When there's so many checks, I got to imagine. I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's what I'm going to say. I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to say like ignorance. I'm going to say like, I don't think he was doing anything. I don't think he was using anything. I think he was using what's given to him. And you're in a humid environment in Texas with
sweating buckets indoors,
sweating and, you know, using rosin. That's what I'm leaning towards.
What was interesting though, I saw something today regarding those checks that you mentioned, because I agree. Like some umpires are very much like, all right, I want to be doing this about as little as you want to be doing this.
Yeah.
Let's just get this over with, whatever. Then there's some guys that you see on the broadcast as you're going to commercial break on TV that are certainly more intentional with their checks, doing their job to the best of their abilities, I guess. I don't know, whatever you want to chalk it up to. But I saw something that said that Bacchus, whatever you call him, the first base umpire, said that there was nothing on his glove during the check in between or in the middle of the first inning. But then he found something when he did his second check, the time when all this started to unfold in the fourth.
So we went 3 innings without a check? Because
no, it's possible they may I don't know. Like, do they rotate checks or something? I don't know, because he said that he referenced it as his second check. So I don't know if there's like a rotation regarding the checks or not. I don't know if it's the same guy every time or what. But.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to take of that.
I don't see the reason for it, and just like logically, and I'm not going to go down the road of like, oh, is this why he's had such a great start to the year? I'm not pulling at that string. We see numerous checks every game. So like, I'm not going to sit there and say that. I don't think he meant to do this. I don't think there was any intent to it. It just doesn't make sense. You're having an incredible start to the season. You've begun what is very much a breakout conversation. You've established yourself. You're already doing well. You're on a team that is fighting to get back. You're one of the only starters that's been super consistent. It just doesn't make sense as to why he would do it. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Now I'm leaning towards rosin and sticky sweat.
Ronel Blanco says he asked the umpire to check his hands because if there's something sticky in the glove, it should be on his hands. They didn't check his hands. He said he thinks it's rosin and he didn't know it's illegal for it to get on your non-pitching hand. So I don't know what to make of that quote necessarily, but the part that I focus on there is where he talks about how common sense would tell you, like, if it's in his glove, it should be on his hands. And then they just chose not to. I don't know if that's confirmed. That's coming from the mouth of Ronel Blanco. I mean, I'm sure you can go back and dissect the video a little bit more, but like, how are we not, if you're doing all this investigating of the glove, why not the hands? Which brings me to the bigger issue for me. You going back to the word that you use, subjective. The whole process by which these umpires go through in terms of determining what level of stickiness has to be achieved for an ejection to take place, or whatever, or what steps need to be taken to avoid an ejection, such as allowing a guy to go wash his hands.
Yeah.
I mean, we broke that down. I mean, that's happened on multiple occasions. I think 2 instances I can think of where the Yankees alone, I think Domingo Germán at one point was allowed to wash his hands. And I want to say Clay Holmes was another guy. Maybe a year or two ago, or maybe even recent. I don't remember, but I feel like he was a name that popped up recently. But it's just like, what kind of system are we following here? If some guys are allowed to wash their hands and some guys aren't,
right?
It just to me, I feel like umpires just wake up, not just with this, but with anything these days. I just feel like umpires are waking up going, what do I feel? What call do I feel like making today? That's
what I'm saying.
What rule book do I feel like adhering to today? And they just go with it.
That's why Laz Diaz has to be that has to be a part of the conversation and taken into account, because we've seen numerous of times that he is pretty confrontational when he gets pushed. It's almost like certain umpires are seeking this stuff. And again, of course, I mean, what do we get? We get one quote. We get one sentence. And every time this happens, it's an umpire saying it's the stickiest they've ever felt. I don't know, man. We need some type of structure to this, but I agree. Like, why not change gloves? You got to use someone else's glove. Sorry. Wash your hands. Go get a new glove. Like, what? Why not? Why can't that be a thing?
Call me crazy. Would this course of action not make the most sense? Okay. It's the 3rd inning. You check. There's nothing there. Comes back out for the pitches the 4th. You check. There's something there. Rather than assume that he's using spider tack or a combination of gasoline and Vaseline, I don't know. Whatever they're assuming that these guys are using to get some sort of competitive advantage. Rather than assume the worst, why not just have the next step in the course of action just be, go wash your hands, change your glove.
Right.
And let's get back to the game.
Yeah. It's always got to be some type of production. It's always got to be this big thing.
If you checked at the beginning of the guy's outing and didn't check again until the end, okay, I could understand why an ejection would be warranted, because guys would then be able to just get away with whatever they want, but you're checking every inning. So what kind of advantage is he really garnering in a half inning, because you said you checked,
right,
and
so
then
like
checked again?
What you're saying is, like, the checks mean that everything else is clear. Everything that was gotten to this point has been cleared. So, like, all we need to do is, go wash, change, and we're back to where we were. We're all clear. Yeah.
I mean, if I understand, like, if you stick your hand in there and it's like maple syrup coming out, okay, you're gone. But like, if you have to sit there for minutes at a time for these checks, for these reviews, to determine whether it's just an ejection is warranted, that really tells me that it's so borderline to being something that you would arguably deem like appropriate, acceptable. So if that's the case, then I don't know. I don't understand the subjectivity of it. For something like this, I feel like there should be a little bit more. There should be a more set in place course of action that follows. A red flag being raised where it's like, oh, okay, whoa, we got a little something here. Okay, well then do something else besides just toss the guy and then suspend him and fine him. I'm not saying condone cheating, as it were, but like if the guy's not cheating and it's just truly a mixture of him sweating buckets and the rosin that he's using that you've told him he can use that's on the back of the mound, then what are we really doing here?
Yeah. Does he think the suspension gets appealed and dropped down at all? Or
I saw just before we hopped on that he said he's starting it tonight. So it's already been accepted, which I felt was also strange. Cause he's trying to defend himself. You got other people in the baseball community, it seems, that are trying to, inject some sense into this conversation because it's clearly lacking with the umpires.
Yeah.
But then he just kind of, I don't want to say falls on his sword, but just it's like I'm not going to fight it. Well, why not fight it? Like if you truly believe that the situation was mishandled, then why are we just taking the hit there? Especially with the way you've been throwing it. Like I'm sure a 10-game suspension is not going to throw him too far off track, but why risk it?
It goes on your record. I think it's like getting a speeding ticket. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're a good driver and all of a sudden you just get caught on a bad day, it sits on the record. You're like, it's not fair. It's not fair. I don't know, man. It is what it is, I guess now. I mean, it's done. It's just, I don't know. There's got to be some kind of system moving forward. There's got to be, I think, maybe some warning, barring ridiculous tackiness. I don't know. Nestor, that's who it was. Good call. Yeah. It's Nestor and Domingo. I remember that. I was going to say Clay Holmes didn't ring any bells, but.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pun intended. It's a messy situation. I just wish the league could clean this up. Like this issue has gone on far long enough. Like establish a substance that works for everybody.
That's what I'm saying. Like this,
and just move forward.
Fixed.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like keep the checks, whatever. I get it. Like even if you establish a substance, like that's with society. Like if you create a law, it doesn't mean people are going to follow it. But at the very least, if you're creating a substance, you're getting everybody on the same page, and then you maintain the checks, and that way you can you can watch over it. I don't know it, but we're going to make this more confusing than it needs to be because that seems to be what Major League Baseball likes to do. Speaking of confusing, I'm not getting all the Ron Washington hate. I mean, I get it. It was probably the most predictable outcome when we found out that he was taking this job as manager of the Los Angeles, California Angels of Anaheim, LA, Angeles, California. But it's still a little shocking. Like we knew this was coming because this is what happens to any manager, regardless of their status in the game or with the respective franchise. This is a perfect example why I want Jason Varitek to stay put. I've said that for years now. I don't want his name ever mentioned in conversations for Red Sox managerial vacancies ever. Stay put. What a crazy way for this game to end on Tuesday. Or was it Wednesday? No, today's Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday.
Tuesday night.
Yep.
7-6 loss to the Cardinals. Luis Guillorme comes to the plate with the bases loaded and is given in the bottom of the 8th and is given the squeeze bunt sign or is informed that he needs to lay down a squeeze bunt, whether it was before his at-bat or during the at-bat or as his at-bat was the beginning. At some point was given notice that he needed to lay a bunt down. And boy, did he not. Squeeze play, I think it was Zach Nito. He's making his way home from third. So you could, we know it wasn't a safety squeeze. I don't know if it was a full-on suicide squeeze because it
seemed that way.
It seemed like it took Zach a minute to make it to the plate.
Yeah.
Although he maybe have hesitated a little bit, maybe tried to make something out of it before it was too late, but it certainly wasn't a safety squeeze. So with that said, because I think that's a very important detail that a lot of people are missing. And we were talking about it before we hopped on. I initially was planning on this being a rather brief segment, but as the day went on and I'm reading more into Angels fans' thoughts and just general onlookers, bystanders that wanted to share their thoughts on how this situation played out, I'm seeing a lot of people commenting on the play itself that clearly have never played baseball a day in their life. And I'm not sitting here trying to pull like what do they know? We at least played baseball. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm simply saying there are nuances to what happened that without that context would make it very easy to look at how the play ended up or developed, unfolded, and go, oh, well, Ron Washington's an idiot. That's not on Luis. That's on Ron. I'm not sitting here trying to absolve Ron Washington of any fault here because he dealt with the post game presser a little bit too strongly. So we'll get to that. But the play itself, a squeeze or a suicide squeeze is where the runner on third is advancing to home.
The second pitcher chooses to go home, that's when they take off.
When the pitcher commits to the plate, that's when he's taken off. And you better hope and pray as the hitter, or if you're a fan watching, that the guy that's up at the plate, you just better hope and pray that ball gets put down. Because if not, you see it play out exactly the way it played out in the Angels game. Your guy gets hosed at the plate, doesn't stand a chance, and the inning or however it progresses usually ends up not the way you want it to. So that's what's not being talked about enough, is the fact that you're literally taught in like youth travel baseball, high school, college, throw the bat at the ball if you have to, but you have to put the bat on the ball. And I don't care if it's 3 balls off the plate, because I saw a lot of people. I was literally just getting into it with a guy on Twitter before we hopped on. He was like, the ball was 3 feet off the plate, you need a telephone pole. It wasn't 3 feet off the plate. It was 3 feet off the plate if you look at where the catcher received it. But when it crosses the plane of the plate, you can get a bat on that. He just wasn't able to get a bat on it. And you're going, well, how could he get a bat on it? You have to throw the bat at the ball if necessary. You have to sacrifice any semblance of posture that you have to make sure that you can reach beyond the plate to have full coverage of even the zone outside of the zone to make sure that you get the ball down. And he didn't do that. And that's exactly what Ron Washington was talking about after the game. Again, he got into a little bit with the quotes there, which we'll touch on. But what were your thoughts on how the play panned out?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. This is a squeeze. I don't know what you did, but like in high school and college, like it was mixed in during BP. Like you would start your round with, if it was your first round, you typically go like, I'm going to go oppo or hit and runs. It's situational, right? So every BP hitter has a situational round to start. You start with bunts. My college coach would mix in squeeze opportunities in there. And he would purposely throw weird pitches. He would throw at you. He would throw wild. He would spike one. And like, if you missed 2 in a row, that round was over and you're out. Like I would get kicked out. That would happen at certain levels. I don't know. I highly doubt this is being practiced. This is one of the things where like, this is a very old school play. Ron Washington is a very old school baseball mind. He mentioned that, he didn't feel good about the left on left. He didn't want to hit into a double play. So this is what he called. And like for fans that are getting on him, I'm not going to get to the comments yet. We'll get to that in here in a sec, but like the play call it's just one of those, he's a genius if it pans out, and he's an idiot if it goes wrong. And that's just how it goes. But yeah, I mean, like this is something we're taught. I don't think it's practiced a lot anymore. I don't think it's practiced enough. I can't speak specifically for Angels practices or pregame stuff. Maybe Ron has mixed that in. Maybe it's been a requirement. I don't know. But like, there's a reason why it doesn't get called very often anymore. And there's a reason there's certain scenarios for it. I do feel for Guillorme because like he just got to town. Homie just got to LA. I know there's probably a connection that they had in Atlanta beforehand, but like tough comments to hear if you're brand new to the squad.
Yeah, in thinking about this incident, it really just reminded me or reinforced the fact that, and hear me when I say this, I'm not trying to just dump on the current generation of baseball fans, but there is, I feel like, a lack of context. Sure, they have numbers, they have data down to the decimal, but there's a lack of, for the ones that haven't played baseball at any level, there's a lack of understanding to the nuance. And you look at something like this that we've already explained, where it's like, if you just see the play develop and you don't really know what needs to be done or how that play is on a technical level supposed to develop, then you're going to look at that and go, again, Ron Washington's an idiot. But you have to understand the nuance. And another example of that is when you see these fans on Twitter using they'll post screenshots on Twitter of the K zone, and it'll be like a ball off the plate, when in reality it was much closer. But you know how those K zones work, like they're never perfect. And even if it's spot on, even if it's like a ball off the plate, the circle will be touching the line, the border of the strike zone, and they'll go, how did our guy get rung up? That's clearly off the plate. And the play in question was a guy leaving the bat on his shoulder with the bases loaded and 2 outs. It's good. Again, that's the lack of understanding the nuance of the game.
Or the vice versa role of a pitcher being wild all day and not getting one of those calls. And understanding that, like, if he's spraying it, the umpire is less likely to call that, and when it's a borderline pitch. So keep going. But yeah, nuances are all over the place that fans need to pick up on.
Yeah, like with the K-zone thing, it's like, sure, it's a ball on paper or on screen, and even in real life, in the game. But the nuance of the game is you have a human umpire behind the plate, and regardless what you think about it, you're going to have to deal with his zone that day. And if he's calling a zone wide, then you're going to have to expand your zone as a hitter. And so for this current generation of fans who are, and again, I'm not trying to just dump on them. I'm just simply bringing an observation forward, is that if you look at that, you go, like, these umpires suck. It's like, well, maybe, yeah, that's true at times in certain situations, but also shift some of that blame towards your hitter for not taking the bat off his shoulder with 2 strikes and 2 outs and the bases loaded. Like, you gotta put bat to ball, or at least make an attempt. I don't care how well he knows his zone. That's what you're taught, is to expand the zone with 2 strikes. So I've had enough of the K zone screenshots. That doesn't tell me anything. Like, that doesn't show me, it doesn't prove to me anything. You just have to understand the nuances of the game. That's all. But the quotes, man. Let's talk about his one or two liner afterwards. He said, Washington explained afterwards why he called for the squeeze bunt in that situation. He said, lefty on lefty and with a sinker baller on a left-hander. I didn't want him to hit into a double play. He said he can handle the bat. He didn't do the job. It wasn't anything I did wrong. He didn't do the job. Now, look, I get it, man. Guys, managers included, players, managers alike, you can get frustrated. You can get caught up in the heat of the moment, especially if it's the Los Angeles Angels of California, Anaheim, LA. That's a frustrating organization to be a part of right now. So I get it. Like, sometimes you may be a little slip of the tongue. But, I mean, for a guy that's been around the game that long, that's a tough line to drop on your guy.
I see both sides.
For the record, I do too. I'm just saying, I can see it from the other side.
I mean, I do hear what you're saying, just because of the fact that, like, again, he's brand new to the clubhouse. He just got traded there a couple days ago. It was like last week. Whether you're familiar with that player or not, like, that guy's still trying to fight for a role on this team. He's still trying to fight for relationships with his teammates. But we've been praising Ron Wash on a lot of different instances. We saw a moment where he kind of lit into Joe Adele for making an out. You know, I think he didn't slide at second or something weird like that. We've seen him go out on visits to the mound and have a conversation with that pitcher. It's things that we grew up seeing in managers, and it's somewhat of a breath of fresh air that it feels like we're not just watching two calculators play each other. We're watching someone that has a finger on the pulse of the game. I think Ron Washington has a responsibility with this organization to correct things, to get things back on track. I would assume that was probably one of the reasons he was brought in, is to just get things back in order. In an old school mentality, he's not wrong. What he said wasn't wrong. Players have to have accountability. Do you say that to the public? Do you say that in a presser? Do you maybe save that moment for a closed door clubhouse or even a closed office one-on-one with that player? Like, that's a different conversation. But like you said, like, the reason we didn't like this, and you posted that on Twitter today, it was a flashback of our conversation we had when this initial hire happened
back in November.
The reason we didn't like this is because it felt like it was an unwinnable situation for Ron Washington. Looking at this roster, looking at the position the organization is in, this was going to be frustrating from the jump. This was going to be, at best, a 500 ball club. At best case scenario. And in a guy in his resume and his history, what he's since done with the Braves and the relationship he's built with players and the admiration he's gotten and praise that he's gotten for his infield coaching abilities, like, and what seemed to be like this very much pro player coach mentality, being in this situation just felt unwinnable. And now I think we're just starting to see it unravel a little bit. I'm not saying like all the training wheels have fallen off and we're just going haywire here, but like, when you get a cut and dry old school manager and you're asking his opinion in a frustrating season that's happened so far, in an unwinnable situation, this is what you get. This is what you get. This is why we weren't about it. This is why we weren't feeling Ron Washington in this role. but I'm still with my guy. I'm still with Wash. He's not wrong. Again, Guillorme didn't get the bunt down. He didn't get wood on it. And that's a rule that's embedded into us since we started picking up a bat. Specifically in this situation, this is what you got to do. And I bet he would sit there and own up to it. It's just the tough thing of delivering that message.
I'm trying to find the quote. He did acknowledge it. But yeah, sorry, keep going. I'm just looking for it.
Yeah, I think it's, you're probably getting a guy, and Guillorme, I think he's been around a little bit. He has typically been a role guy. He's typically getting, 2 or 3 games in a week. He's not a full-time, permanent marker into the lineup every day. So I think he understands that he's got to make the best of his opportunities. I don't fully agree with the way Ron Wash went about it, but I don't disagree with what he said. And getting grown men to have some accountability for their jobs that they're getting paid a lot of money to do. This is what it takes to flip the script or flip the mentality or change what this organization has been about. And it's not easy coming in and saying, we're about winning here. We need to make this about winning. And we need to change some things. And I'm pro Ron Wash still, even after this.
Absolutely. And I'm in the same camp. I did find the quote. He said, when they asked him about it, he said, I haven't seen what Washington said, but he said, he made a good pitch. I didn't get it down. I've got to try to put a bat on it. That's it.
That's it.
So what are we talking about here?
Right.
These people talking about the ball being 64 feet off the plate. Not the case. It was clearly manageable enough that he indicates that he could have gotten a bat on it. So, or that he could at least try to put a bat on it, which is all you can ask for in a situation like that, because you know that you're not always going to have it in the zone, and that's going to sometimes trickle out of the zone a little bit, a few balls off the plate. You still got to try to put a bat on it.
You've taken the Augie Garrido exit off for a while now, yeah?
It's been a minute since we dropped the Augie audio.
I think for those unfamiliar, there's just certain coaches that have different types of expectations. And there's certain coaches that require a pursuit of perfection in certain things, specifically when it comes to fundamentals. There's just old school mentalities. When you talk to a scout, if he walks away from a game saying, I'm not interested in this high schooler because he walked off the mound or he walked off the field in between innings, it's Coach Corbin with Vanderbilt. I can't remember his name. Talks about how he didn't, Tim Corbin, thank you, didn't recruit a kid because he asked for a Gatorade from his mom in the second inning and then didn't say thank you afterwards. He got up and left. There's just certain baseball coaches out there that they can look at those nuances that you mentioned. They can have a finger on the pulse a little bit differently than just results and stats. We can look at the game in different ways. And it doesn't mean Ron Washington is wrong. He's trying to fix this dumpster fire of an organization and correct things. And then if he's asking players to have accountability, that's what it's going to take. And I can guarantee that Ron Washington probably had a voice in trading for Guillorme and getting him onto this roster because of the prior relationship in Atlanta. So to sit here and judge from a 10,000-foot view, it's not cool. We don't know what's going on behind that clubhouse. We don't know if they've already made up. We don't know. But what I do know is that Ron Washington has forgotten more about baseball than any of us talking or listening to this podcast at the moment has ever learned. So let's back it down a little bit. Let my man do what he does and give it some time to fix this script that is the Los Angeles, California Angels of Los Angeles, LA.
Anaheim.
California,
LA.
Yeah.
Angeles. Putting a bow on it, that tweet I just texted you, people are finally showing up on my thread in support of the same exact things we're saying.
Yes, sir.
Like that's the kind of, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, head over to my Twitter. You'll see my post about the whole Washington thing, and it's in the replies. But it was just people talking about how, like, if you didn't make an effort, if you didn't go all out, that you were going to hear it after the game. And
100%.
Somebody sent a picture of a kid just going all out.
And you can tell immediately if a hitter seems to be in a good position to make a bunt. That was a late show, and that was an ass out, half attempt swipe down at it. You knew that was coming, and it needs to be performed in a better way. You're a professional athlete, and that is something that, you know, in that tweet, like you said, it's a high schooler. Like we've been taught this for a while. Whether you practice it is a different conversation. Whether the game needs more of it or less of it is a different conversation. But either way, that was not a good enough effort on a very much definition do or die play.
Well said. Speaking of effort, Jung Hoo Lee, in an effort to make a catch on Sunday, hurt his shoulder. And we just found out, I want to say yesterday, post MRI, that, or I'm guessing it was, MRI, revealed that there was structural damage to the shoulder. So now he is going to be getting a second look on Thursday. So one can assume that he's going to be out for a little bit of time, which is kind of a shame. You know, I think he was settling in fairly nicely for a newbie to the major league scene. He was hitting 262 with 2 homers, 8 ribbies, had a little low in the OPS, 641, but defensively he had been doing well.
Absurd. I genuinely believe he could have won a Gold Glove this year. From what I've seen.
Yeah, sorry, I undersold him there. He's been great defensively.
Yeah. Hence the effort, right? Like, I don't know, man. Like, that's Griffey to me. That's Torrey Hunter to me. That's like how center fielders should play. I don't think we see it enough anymore, but oh man, I think it depends, right? It depends if it's a labrum issue. It depends if it's a rotator cuff issue. Sometimes you can rehab, sometimes you can tighten it up. Rehab is still, from what I've like looked into and read, is still like a 4 to 6 week thing, best case scenario. Surgery is more like a 4 to 6 month thing. And if it's bad enough to where surgery's, you know, in the picture, I think he's done for the year. Which is tough because I like him. I like watching him.
Oh,
he's insane, man. He flies around, and like for that to even be like, he got leather on that ball. I don't know if you could tell. Like it hit off the pinky of the leather of his glove and hit off the top of the wall. Like to even get into a position to potentially make that play just speaks to what he's capable of as a defender. But man, it's really tough news.
I mean, like I said, offensively, he wasn't bringing as much to the table, if really anything. But there is something to be said, and take it from a guy who had the fortune of watching Jackie Bradley hold it down in center for however many years he was in Boston. There's something to be said for a guy that, regardless how he does offensively, regardless what output he brings to the table, knowing that there's probably a fraction of a percentage point number of baseballs that are hit to the outfield that he's not going to be able to get to. And I feel like Lee is one of the guys that it doesn't really matter where the ball's hit or how hard. Like you were saying, the fact he's going to at least put himself in a position to get a glove on it. And that carries a lot of weight, especially for your other outfielders who are around, as well as your staff. Like knowing that if there's a ball that you see, if you're yanking your neck back, but then you're reminded oh wait, I got a guy out there, and not only do I have a guy, I've got a guy that's more than likely already camped under the ball. There's a lot of value in that. So
Yeah.
losing him defensively for any amount of time is going to suck, but we can only hope that it'll be minimal.
Yeah.
But
And it was like such a perfect spot on the wall too, like where it had the pad and then below the pad was the chain link fence. It looked like his elbow like hit the pad first and then like pushed it in. It just a weird fluky thing.
yeah,
Sucks. Yeah.
not fun. What is fun, however, is having been able to watch these arms that we're about to discuss. The first one maybe not as fun for me, I will say. Although I'm not surprised. I had a feeling something like this was going to happen. I knew that the second he had a change of scenery that he was going to return to a Cy Young caliber pitcher. And that is Christopher Allensale of the Atlanta Braves. Tuesday night start, went 7 deep, only allowed 2 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 9 Ks. What's more impressive, though, is what he's done on the season. 8 starts, 6-1, 2.54 ERA, 61 Ks, a 0.89 whip, 11 Ks per 9, a 1.5 WAR over 49.2 or 49 and 2/3 innings pitch. What's even more impressive than that, however, has been his last three start stretch. 18 innings, 28 Ks, only 1 earned run allowed, which amounts to an ERA of 0.50. So the question needs to be asked: is Chris Sale in the Cy Young conversation?
Kind of has to be. At least this early. The strikeouts jump out to me big time when Chris Sale, because like the deception's already there. It's a lot of lankiness, a lot of elbows, a weird slot, hides the ball, pitches on one side of the rubber, like pitches behind left-handed hitters almost, like all of that. But when the swing and miss is also included in that, that's how you know he's back. And when you almost can like leave the spotlight and the pressure and like the stigma of like, oh, we traded for this guy and we extended him and, you know, he's helped us get rings and like all the stuff that he had in Boston, to have a reset button, to have a staff where you don't need to be the guy to just figure out like how to do this again. I think everyone predicted this. I think there was a lot of people that had him as comeback player of the year. There's a lot of people that knew that Anthopoulos constantly finds diamonds in the rough. I'm not surprised. I'm not at all surprised. It's cool to see. And it's like nicer to see for me now, because I'm like, I'm okay with seeing him succeed in a different uniform. For you, I feel like the sting hurts that much more.
Yeah, I mean, I know I make the connection to fantasy baseball a lot, but the way I think about something like this is you get rid of a guy. Perfect example. That's the guy we're going to cover here in just a minute, Dylan Cease. In fact, I believe I traded him your way, if I recall. Dylan Cease, a guy that coming into the season I wasn't terribly high on. I thought, maybe people thinking that his last year in Chicago was maybe the rule and not the exception. Like maybe we just saw that one extremely solid campaign out of him, but maybe he will struggle to recapture that. I kind of adopted that line of thinking. Apparently that was a mistake on my part, but you look to maybe capitalize while you can, because you're just not as high on this individual anymore. So you ship him out, and then they go on to do great things, which is what Dylan Cease has done. That's kind of, I feel like, where the Red Sox were at. They're like, we've arrived at the end of this road. Like we need to get what we can for this before things get even worse. And then he goes on to have the start that he's having. And who's to say? I'm not wishing anything upon him, but reminder, it is still early.
True.
We've seen this happen before. All I'm saying though is the start that he is off to right now, it's vintage Chris Sale, and it's I mean, Red Sox fan or not, it's cool to see. I mean, you love to see a guy like that have a bounce back.
Yeah, as a baseball fan, you're like you knew, like anybody that sit here and says that like I would kill for like one more Cy Young caliber season from Steven Strasburg, right? Before it was all said and done, like to sit here and say like we're done with Chris Sale, like we're fine with his career ending this way. Nah, I don't buy it. Like this is what we're wanting to see. It's good for baseball. It's good for him. It's good for stories like him, second chances, third chances, fourth chances, whatever you want to chalk it up as. It's good to see him back. It's good to see him doing what he's doing. You know, it's just annoying that it's what the Braves seem to always do. And yeah, is what it is, I guess. I don't know. Good for him though. Weirdo.
Yeah, we're talking about some dudes here, and I promise you, I said last episode, I
get some pitchers in. Yeah,
had a little bit of a busy weekend, so we had to run with some broader storylines. But I knew there were some guys that needed some love, we needed to have some conversations about. And I told you, I said we'll get to some dudes, we'll get to some numbers, and here we are talking about it. Although, like you said, it's we're heavy on the arms here. In fact, it's exclusively arms. Next in line, Seth Lugo.
Yeah.
One of the most underrated, least talked about arms, I think, right now in all of baseball. He's sporting a 6-1 record. He's got an ERA of 1.66, which is fourth best in all of baseball, and it's the best in the American League. He's got 48 Ks, a .96 whip, and opponents are hitting 206 off of him, which for context, if you're curious, like where does that rank? The guy that we talked about very recently, Shota Imanaga, has got the same opponent batting average. So that kind of puts into perspective where Seth Lugo's at right now with OBA. And this is all over 59 2/3 innings, which is most in all of baseball. I think that's noteworthy in and of itself. Something I think is interesting here, a little nugget I've got on Seth Lugo. His K per 9 right now is 7.24, which is 59th in baseball. So what does that tell us? He's working effectively. He's working efficiently. He's pitching to contact. He's limiting traffic. As the whip shows, he's managing base runners well. He's doing all of this without blowing it by it, which ironically, his last outing, I think he had a career high 12 Ks. So yeah, he wanted to maybe mix up a little bit there with that narrative, but all in all, across his 2024 campaign thus far, it's he's been a little bit on the lower end in terms of Ks per 9. So
I want to just pat the Royals organization in front office on the back.
I want to shake your hand.
Just to do this, dude, is like to turn things around, to find a guy. And I was looking, we know the name Seth Lugo. Like we know it. We're used to this name. I didn't realize until now he's only been like a full-time starter for 2 seasons in his career. 2017, he made 18 starts. That was the highest of his career. He went to the bullpen pretty much primarily for the next 5 years. And then last year with San Diego, he had 26 starts and a 3.57 ERA with 146 innings. For the Royals organization to be like, let's try it. Let's grab this 34-year-old and let's slide him into the rotation and let's see what he can do. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I will refuse to talk about Seth Lugo or any other Royals pitcher right now without bringing up the fact that Sally Perez has on a dime flipped his catching style, his framing. He has to be mentioned in this. To be a veteran that's been in the game that long, to switch things around and do what he's doing, it speaks volumes to what's happening with the pitching staff. Seth Lugo, obviously a huge benefit from it. But yeah, you hit everything, man. Pitch to contact, trust the really good defense behind him. And it's fun to see. It's fun to see. Another just fun story, dude. Like, that no one expected. No one had this on the bingo card. Good for Seth.
Again, it's early, but my take on the Royals making the wild card.
I love it. It's looking good.
It's looking not looking too bad.
Yeah.
Just the postseason in general, not looking too bad for the old Kansas City Royals. Speaking of the American League Central, Tarik Skubal, another name we need to talk about. Another name that is getting a fair amount of respect, but I don't think quite enough. He's 5-0 on the year. He's got a 2.02 ERA, 49 innings pitched. He's racked up 60 strikeouts with a whip of 8.57. That's a .857. He's got a major league leading 2.03 FIP, and he touched, just for notes purposes, he touched 100 for the first time in his career on Sunday. According to Codify, he's got the most F4 among major league pitchers since August 1st at 4.1, and he is the current American League Cy Young favorite and Nate's preseason pick.
It's true. It's looking good there. If anybody wants to, I'm looking at his Baseball Savant page right now. It's just everything's lit up in red. Everything's lit up in red. This guy's absurd, man. Expected batting average.
Are you looking at Tarik Skubal or are you looking at Mason Miller?
I'm looking at Skubal, baby. I'm looking at Skubal. Why?
No,
same thing.
Mason Miller is just all red.
Yeah,
it's just a red block.
But the expected batting average, the expected the WOBA and the expected WOBA, both like top 3, 10, 8% in the league. K percentage is top 10 in the league. Walk percentage is top 8% in the league. Like, he's a true 4-pitch pitcher. Like, the 4-seam, the sinker obviously is what he works off of a lot, but like the changeup and slider are big time in the mix. This is pitching. This is pitching. This man is disgusting. Super, super fun to watch. Man. Yeah. Go look at the Baseball Savant page. Stud. Go win that Cy Young for me. I love being like 1 for 30 on my hot take prediction episodes. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be wrong for most of them, but that
for the
one,
record, I think in a name we've touched on a little bit, and we'll probably have to revisit here soon. But Zach Wheeler, I believe, is the favorite for the National League at the moment, for some outlets, and I'm pretty sure that's who I had coming out of the National League preseason episode.
Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thunk it? Moving along here, talking about National League Cy Young candidates, Dylan Cease. He's rocking a 5.3, 2.45 ERA, 55 innings pitched 68 Ks over 55 innings pitched. Those 68 strikeouts are third most in all of baseball. He's got a .782 whip, which is second best in baseball. We've talked about different elements of these guys. Some guys pitching at contact, some guys being efficient, some guys using pitch selection. Dylan Cease, strikeout is the word that comes to mind here. 8 of his 9 starts this season, he's had 7+ strikeouts, which may not sound like a lot, but when you think about some of the names out there who you would expect to have something like that, but don't.
Yeah.
It's tip your cap worthy. 5 4 out of his last 5 starts, he's had 8+ Ks. And on his May 8th start, which I believe was his start before the last, 12 strikeouts versus the Cubs.
Different and different style too. That he's primarily a 2-pitch guy. He's basically just fastball slider. That's majority of what he's throwing, and it's disgusting. And he's also in like a fairly hitter friendly Petco. So
yeah,
that's something else to say too. So I
hate that I traded him.
Hate that I traded him. But you do.
I traded him before this breakout campaign really got going.
But that's my thing, and I'm not going to be like a Debbie Downer here, but like as a 2-pitch guy, like you could see one of those getting having an issue. And,
there's reason for caution,
right? Like, and we've seen caution before, and we've seen things to be cautious about in the past. So I tried to sell high. We'll see if it continues. I hope it does, but at the same time, since I traded him, I'm okay if it doesn't. I got J-Ram out of the deal. If anyone's curious, I got Jose Ramirez out of the deal. So, and the rest of the pitching staff looks okay for me right
now. Next we got to talk about a name I've already mentioned here, Mason Miller. And we won't keep it too long because I know we got to get out of here soon. But did we save the best for last here?
I think we did, dude.
Talk about an exciting arm.
Yeah.
On the year, he's sporting a 9.98 ERA, but that's not even what people really care about, honestly. Nobody cares about how many runs this guy gives up. They care about how many triple-digit fastballs he's going to shove down your throat. He's got 38 strikeouts on the year, which, according to Danny Vietti, leads the Oakland A's this season as a reliever. He's a reliever, mind you. He's only pitched 18 1/3 innings and a third innings. Paul Blackburn is second with 36 over 46 innings.
Disgusting.
He's faced 67 batters and struck out 38 of them, which, for those of you doing the math at home, that's 57% of the batters he's faced. Mason Miller has struck out 57% of the batters he's faced. He's yet to give up a home run. Regarding his triple-digit fastballs that I mentioned earlier, he's thrown 54 more than any other pitcher this season. His past 11 appearances, he's thrown 13 1/3, given up 0 runs, had 30 Ks, 1 hit, and 2 walks.
It's stupid.
Oh, and by the way, he's now the Rookie of the Year favorite coming out of the American League.
Yeah. Again, you mentioned earlier the Baseball Savant page is absurd. Exit velocity ranks in the top 6% of the league. The expected batting average is top 1%. Expected slug percentage is top 1%. WOBA top 1%. X-WOBA top 1%. Do we know what X-WOBAcon is? Is that on base percentage based on like expected contact made, or you know what I mean? That's what.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That sounds right. That's also top 1%, by the way. Hard hit percentage, which is at 20.8, is top 1%. K percentage, 56.7%, like you mentioned, top 1% in baseball. This kid is ridiculous. Great comment saying that he's going to be highly sought after. I think I read something that the A's have yet to get anything near the asking price. Anything near it. So to sit here and say that like the Dodgers or the Yankees or whatever bullpen is in need to step in and go snag this guy, be prepared to pay up. And I don't know if anyone will.
Yeah, yes, I agree with you. I think it's gonna require a haul, but we can't. I think we have to be careful in equating the demands of a Mason Miller to a guy like Juan Soto, because and I'm not saying people are making those comparisons, but I feel like as the season goes on, as Mason Miller gets talked about more, it's going to be like the Oakland A's are going to be asking for the moon. And it's like, yeah, we get it. This guy, he's legit. I'm not questioning that. But also, like, we have to keep in mind that we're dealing with a closer and not a guy like a Juan Soto who's going to be out there for 160 games every season.
Yeah.
Who also is like a generational talent, depending upon who you ask.
Yeah.
So I agree. I'm with you. And I said all that not to disagree with what you're saying. I'm just saying, like, I want us to be careful and realistic about, like, what is this package really going to look like? And
yeah, especially when you see arms dropping like flies all around the league.
Right.
And especially when you're talking about the Oakland A's that have given away plenty of players for bags of chips and bucket of balls. So,
and when you consider, like, I've seen the Orioles thrown around as a trade destination, and I'm like, okay, so we're just throwing Felix Bautista to the Wolves here, and I know he's out.
Right. But like, what you would give up, yeah.
Right. That it just speaks to, like, okay, the Orioles thought they felt like this was their guy. And most fans will probably tell you that he still is their guy whenever he returns. But it's like, okay, if that's how we're treating or handling a lockdown guy who we thought a fan base was just beyond attached to, then why would a team, or like why are we assigning so much value to a guy like Mason Miller, who, yeah, is a different pitcher than a guy like Felix Bautista, but again, he doesn't hold the same, just, like, baseball value as a guy like Juan Soto, who has proven it year after year after year.
Yeah.
And is a generational talent. Like, I don't know. I just want to make sure we're not getting into those weeds. That's all.
I do concur. And I forgot what I was going to say.
If you did have a team, I wanted to ask you if there was a team.
That's what I was going to say. It's going to be I think it's either the Dodgers or the Orioles. If we get to pick one team from each league, it's a team that's log jam at the top and has plenty of stuff to move in their farm. Those two teams come to mind.
Can I throw out an option that I kind of like, that makes more sense than
under the radar
than trading him to a team that already has a couple closers in the mix, like the Orioles, or like bona fide options, the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, Leclerc has been.
Kirby Yates, I think, on paper right now is their guy. That
both those guys have been in shambles, I think.
Leclerc's had a rough go of it, and I've seen Spores' name thrown around as a potential option down the road, but I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily see it. And I know he closed out the World Series, and
maybe
old
Diamondbacks.
Friend,
maybe Diamondbacks. Is Seawald still out?
That I think more gets hung up with the farm. I think it's less about their needs and more about what they're able to
what
offer,
they're able to afford.
But I don't know, man. It'll be fun. Honestly, like, it sounds kind of lame, but I kind of like watching them on the A's right now, because it's like, okay,
there's a reason to watch them.
Yeah, like it's kind of like the Lamborghini under the carport meme. Like in the trailer house or under like the trailer park, whatever. Like, that's kind of what we're dealing with here with Mason Miller and the A's. So for comedic purposes, I would say I don't mind him being on the A's right now.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Speaking of which, should we get a quick A's check? Is that game started yet?
We don't need to talk about it. It's 2-0 Astros in the fourth. We can just keep talking and we can just catch the end of the game and all.
For an hour and a half. Yeah.
Another hour and a half. No, let's talk about Jack Leiter, and then we'll be close to getting out of here. We've gone deep here. Jack Leiter. Poor kid, man. Tell you what. Poor kid.
Yeah.
Is 0-1 on the season. He's had 3 starts, and over those 3 starts, he's accumulated an ERA of 16.39 over 9 1/3 innings. He has just 7 Ks. He has a whopping WHIP of 2.571, and he is racked up a -1 WAR. His 16.39 ERA is the 3rd highest ERA in Major League Baseball history for a pitcher's first 3 career starts, going back to 1920.
It's tough, man. And it's not like he's faced powerhouses, no disrespect to these teams, but like the Tigers, the A's, and the Guardians, respectively, is what he's gotten. It's tough, man.
I mean, the
That's
Guardians
tough.
are a good team, but like they're not gonna go mashing baseballs around the diamond.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Just go get right. It's tough, dude. He's undersized. He doesn't have that power arm. And if you're not spotting up, like it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. So just go get right. It's unfortunate, but a little reality check, a little bit of a gut check. I don't know. Talk to dad more. Figure out what's going on. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
I hope. We need Jack Leiter right, man. I feel like that'd be a good addition to
It'd be fun.
the youth pitchers arsenal, if you will, that currently exists around the league. Because there's some bright futures ahead, and some bright futures that are already underway, I would say, in regards to some of these young names. But let's hope he turns around. I think some good conversations, some good mechanical analysis, and just maybe some mental analysis. You never know. Like we talk about, you never know what's really going on under the hood. So
Yeah.
hopefully he gets it right. Last but not least here, weekend series to watch, and we'll get you out of here. Starting off for me, I am going to be watching the Padres take on the Atlanta Braves this weekend. If I have the chance, which I think I will. It'll be a busy weekend, but I'll be able to pull it up. Shout out MLB app on the phone, man. You can watch anywhere. Not to make it an ad, but
Yep.
that's a beautiful thing, man. You can be on the toilet, you can be watching baseball. It's a beautiful thing.
Don't tell anybody, but I absolutely put it up near the speedometer when I'm driving. So, yeah.
I'm going to refrain from commenting for legal purposes. Game 1, you got Matt Waldron versus Max Fried. That's at 7:20 p.m. Game 2, you've got Yu Darvish. Oh, game 1 is Friday. Matt Waldron versus Max Fried, 7:20. Game 2, you've got Yu Darvish versus Bryce Elder at 7:15 Eastern. Game 3, you've got Randy Vasquez versus Ronaldo Lopez at 7 p.m. That's Sunday Night Baseball. And Game 4, I don't care.
It's on a Monday, so no excuse.
It's
Not
on a
lot of
Monday
games.
at 12:20 p.m. Eastern. I don't care
Love
what
that.
what fan you're or like what team you're a fan of. You need to be watching this game. Game 4 on Monday between the Padres and Braves features Dylan Cease and Chris Sale. Are you kidding me?
Yes. That's amazing. That's 9:00 at my time. I'm not gonna get any work done.
You're going to be waking up to this.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
What a day. That's my
big time.
weekend series to watch.
Mine is not nearly as understandable or fun. But my logic behind this, this is the potential script flip series for the Cincinnati Reds. And I hate to say it, but like this 4-game set against the Dodgers, they haven't won a series. I think I looked back. They haven't won a series. It's been 7 straight series of either tie or loss. They haven't won since like April 19th or 20th or something like that.
Are you saying this is a statement series for the Cincinnati Reds?
This is a series where, like, if you can put together a good series, a complete series against a World Series favorite, this could flip your season. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games. They're 8 games back in the division. They're 7 games under 500. They're -3 in the run differential. Like, nothing says this is a matchup worth watching. What I'm saying is this is a matchup that could ignite something if the Reds can just figure it out, if they can do well. And I don't mean split. I need to see them win this series and watch them become the team that everyone thought they were going to be. There's a lot of people that were high on the Reds coming into the season. So, 4-game set.
I missed it. Did you mention where this is at? Is it in?
It's in LA. Okay. It is in California. Starts Thursday, so mañana, today maybe for some of you. 4-game set. Don't know who's thrown game 1 for the Reds, but they're going against Glass now, so that's a tough look. Frankie Montas going Friday for the Reds against James Paxton. Saturday, you've got Graham Ashcraft going against Walker Buehler. And Hunter Green against Yamamoto. That's Sunday. I would try and lock that in.
There you go.
That's an afternoon game, 1:00 Pacific. Try to catch that one. That's a good one. But this is Walker Buehler coming back. Hasn't quite settled in. Hasn't gotten built up. James Paxton can have some clunkers every once in a while. Like, come on, Reds. Come on.
You can thank us. We've got your Sunday and Monday appointment television planned out for you. You didn't even
tell the
have
wife
to
you're
do
busy. Yep.
You didn't even have to look around. We got it for you. Sunday, Reds,
also,
Dodgers.
I found a secret. If you're a couple, if you're married or significant other, if you're one of those where like you use Sunday as like a cleaning chore day, just offer to clean the kitchen with the TV right there. If it's within view or audio view, that doesn't work. Audio distance. Just say, hey, babe, I got the kitchen. Take your time. Wipe down the stove. Get inside that stove if you need to. Get the counters. Wipe down the cabinets. Get the fridge. You can get a couple innings in that way.
Get the brownie points and the baseball. How
just
about
a little
that?
Piece of advice there. Just something I've since discovered.
How about that? Look at you, man. You've been married for what? Like a month and you're already a pro. How about
That's
it?
right. That's right.
How about it? All right, that'll do it. Unless you got anything else.
No, stick with my boy Ron Wash. Relax on that, okay? I'm going to bed tonight knowing that Ron Washington in baseball means baseball's better. So just relax. And don't go chasing curveballs.
Love y'all, and as always, looking forward to talking more baseball with you guys soon. Until next time, stay filthy.